think they're mostly
in the oil and in some of the chemicals, I guess.
Yeah, I think most. I'm not clear on how that affects people.
It's bad.
Yeah, it is bad, but in what way? I don't know what the exposure is.
Yeah, with PCBs, they're fairly dangerous. I'm actually teaching a class now. I'm teaching two classes. One, which is I'm co-teaching with Bob Hansman. Andy Ramus. Yeah.
He's told me all about you.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
I hope he said something good.
No, he's... Hey, man.
I brought a camera. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're busy.
You can join in.
Yeah, Megan, you
Yes, we're talking.
populate the...
Yes. Make it look like the entire gallery, everybody is just fixated on these three drawings. So the other class I'm teaching is architectural design using sustainability issues. So I gave my students just this past week an assignment to deal with one of these heavily polluted sites and to design a building for, I don't know if you know Times Beach.
I've heard of it, yeah. I've never been there.
Yeah, it was heavily contaminated with dioxin.
Yeah.
And then it was remediated and cleaned up, and now it's a state park. But my sense is not a lot of people go there.
Because of the history.
Yeah, it's got a stigma. So I'm asking them to design an interpretive center, visitor center, to try to help, to try to explain to people the history of the site. And one of my students was like, I'm not going there.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, well, it's all been clean.
Yeah.
They've spent millions and millions of dollars. And she was just like, I think I kind of overbuilt how dangerous it was.
Oh, no.
So she was kind of frightened. And I said, well, you're going to have to go to the site. One way or the other. If you stay inside your car and keep your windows rolled up, I guess that's okay.
Go in some rain boots or something, some rubber boots.
Yeah. So this kind of came out of some of your work with Bob, I guess.
Yeah, this was heavily, he advised us quite a bit, advised me quite a bit.
And so you were doing this, and with who else?
I started the project, I started the independent study with Miriam Keller.
Right, and then did she do her own drawings?
She started some, I'm not clear on as to how it
where it came from.
Yeah, but we kind of went different ways.
Sure.
But I have to say, I probably would not have embarked on this without Miriam.
Sure.
So we definitely drafted the proposal together. So I have a lot to thank her for.
All right, so let's look at this one. I think, can you point out different features that people might recognize?
As far as the site?
Yeah, the site or just the elements of your drawing. So I'm seeing this sign here.
Yeah. Well, the site has a chain link fence around most of it, but it's not exactly upright anymore. It's not exactly collapsing, not exactly at its feet. And it has these rusted trespassing signs, pretty illegible. So I guess I took this idea of no trespassing and also this idea of entrapment is kind of illustrated or embodied in chain link fence and tried to so this image is supposed to embody that idea of entrapment, inevitability. And then this is my
And then it also
this is an imagined view of the building. It's something very similar does exist, but I didn't.
So would you say it's kind of idealized?
Like I'm on
The view, yeah, it's so simplified.
Okay. So like these are areas of glass,
Yeah,
and would they be more like those windows?
yeah. So these are the windows that you count this.
I'm riveted.
Yeah.
It is really hard. No,
Yeah, so it started out that
at any rate,
the building is one of the first layers, and the spray paint
like you need a map.
is the last
A
layer.
lot of times you need a dictionary.
And
The words.
so I started out with kind of this hazy idea of chain link fence that wasn't really working. I had to
So I can
make
pick
it
up
more
all of these
concrete.
things. You know, I'm doing it.
So is that like these sort of pencil
Yeah,
outlines?
yeah, there's yeah. It started out as
So that's the beauty of having a
squares that I made out of marker. And it started curving into the building and didn't really know what it was at that point.
Right.
And so to clarify it, I came back with stencils.
You know what? I went the first day.
The thing that it's the way these kinds of projects are always end up is that there's a lot of ways you can read it. And so like I said, I was looking at it like, okay, there's these layers of chain link, and then I was seeing this as like sort of lines of figures. And then here it almost looks like street plan of the city. Yeah. So I think that's, it's really interesting. Exactly. What's this like right in here?
I guess that was a fence post that I kind of tried to use blurry. It was sort of a distraction from the idea. So I guess that's one reason about the layers is some things don't work.
Trouble trio.
Remedy that. Just keep the layer.
And when you're working on this, so this is on canvas?
This particular one's on paper.
It's on paper.
This one's on paper. That one's on canvas.
Okay.
And then another one is on canvas.
And did you tend to work on them like pinned up on a wall or on the floor?
Mostly on the floor.
Yeah.
It's hard to find enough wall space. I also did a lot of, when I was spray painting, I was in the spray booth. There's only floor space in there, so.
Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah, I mean, these kind of paint blotches, black, it makes me get that feeling of like contamination, oil, pollution. So it seems appropriate. And I think, like in here where it becomes even more three-dimensional, I think it gives the whole thing more depth in the sense of there's an illusionistic kind of depth, which is opening in the fence and then seeing the building in perspective. But then these kind of black marks force you to see it as a drawing, as a plane. Which I think is
Sandness is not one of my strong points, right?
The heavy black marks really happen by
Oh man, I love it. Whatever he does, I'm going to do that.
the stencil is gooping up with so much spray paint that why don't I just turn it over and stamp it on the page?
Right.
And
So it becomes a form of printing.
yeah.
Probably 40 on that side.
You've probably seen like those films of Jackson Pollock where he would spread canvas out on the floor. I don't know if you've ever seen that. You have to see. They show it in like some of the biography sort of films. But there are some documentary films where, he'd have a canvas that's 20, 30, 40, 50 feet long. And he'd be smoking cigarettes, he'd have all these cans of paint, and he'd be sloshing them around, and being very, very intentional about it. People, say, oh yeah, it's just a bunch of gobbledygook. but he was very specific about how he was doing things, and his footprints are in there, and pieces of the cigarette butts, and all the stuff that just goes in.
Yeah.
And so then his paintings end up being really thick and layered, which it doesn't come through when you look at it in a art history book. It's just an image, and you see colors, and so when you see the actual thing, it starts to have some of this kind of sensibility. Yeah. So let's look at this one. Excuse me.
Official interview?
Yes. All right. So, when I'm looking at it, it seems like there's this overall set of these big window mullions. So it seems as if you're looking through windows and then seeing other windows.
Yeah.
Well, I'm asking you.
It's the difference between a priest and a monk.
It's the window at different scales.
Just gets there.
And this
He doesn't tell you nothing.
heavy
He
dark
doesn't care how you do it.
lines are life size. So that is the actual size of the window.
So that's the actual size of
I like them all.
Yeah, that's the actual size. And then behind it is a scaled down version to give you an elevation, more or less.
I see. So those were cut out of stencils.
Yeah, on all of these I use stencils, yeah.
So that's the reason for these breaks.
Yeah,